Good morning. Today I would like to announce something that me and my business partner David have been thinking about for a long time. It's called reverse interview, and it's basically a job ad in live stream form. It's a live stream where two developers from a company, maybe yours, gets asked a bunch of questions about what it is like to work at that company. In this video, I'm going to describe a little bit our idea with the reverse interview, and I'm speaking to you that is a developer working at a company that is hiring at the moment in this difficult time. And there's info in the video description on how to get in touch with us if this is something that is sounds interesting to you and your company. And I'm also going to talk a little bit more about that in the end of this video. So, the reverse interview is basically a live stream where we take two engineers from your company that you feel would be good representatives of your company, and just nice people, and that can give an insight into what it is like to work at your company, your processes, your culture, maybe answer a few questions about your stack, that kind of thing. Because the problem that we're trying to solve with this is that a normal job ad is this very texty pitch where it doesn't really, reading a job ad is very hard to figure out what it's actually like. It doesn't give a good picture, and you probably also have very specific questions. At all the jobs I've ever considered to apply for, I've always had like these questions in my mind, like, oh, but what is it really like there? What are the people like? I really would like to find just a developer to talk to and ask questions that I have around my specific needs and my specific values. So that's why you, as a possible job applicant who join this live stream, this might be a company that you want to work for, and you can just listen if you want, but we will also be taking a lot of questions from chat. So if you have any questions as a viewer, then you just write them, and we will try to pick them up and handle as many questions as possible, what it's like to work for this company. And this is of course why it's called the reverse interview. It's you interviewing people at a company before you apply, or even before you even start a conversation with the company. So these live streams are job ads where we, Fun Function, actually endorse a workplace, which means that we are going to do a little bit of due diligence on a company before we make a reverse interview, because there's going to be more applicants than we can put on. We're not going to do a ton of these. So the first thing that we're looking for in a company is that the company is hiring somewhat globally, widely. So we don't want companies that just hire in one country and only hire developers in that country, because we have a rather global audience, and we don't want to create reverse interviews where just a fraction of our audience can apply for it. It doesn't necessarily mean that you relocate. It can also be that you are heavily remote and are willing to hire abroad, but you should be willing to talk with a candidate in most countries if that candidate is the right candidate. So that's very important to us. Secondly, competitive salaries and benefits. It's important to us that the companies that we endorse on the reverse interview will offer a competitive benefits and salary package in their initial offer after the interviews, so you don't get surprised with lowballing or anything. You don't need to be Google or financial institution level at all. But it needs to be competitive in your market and your segment. So that's the first two hard requirements. After this is more cultural things that we are looking for that will increase the chance of us featuring company. Number 3 is a collaborative environment. So a company can range a little bit on this. Some companies are very heavily focused on individual performers. Like you hire geniuses, they go away in their chamber and they produce this code blob and then deploy it. But we are looking more for companies that shift more towards a team effort. So companies that have a very well-functioning code review process, maybe do a lot of pair programming, maybe even if you have mob programming rooms, you are very likely to be the kind of company that we are looking for. And if you hold very regular retrospectives, if you have weekly one-on-ones, or at least bi-weekly, that is also like one of those things where there's a lot of collaboration happening, and where you have a blameless culture where no single mistake can be made by anyone alone. There's always at least 2 or more people that were involved in making that mistake. This also relates to point 4, that we want companies that have a experimental, failure-driven, friendly environment. We basically want companies where an employee feels that it's safe to fail. That doesn't mean that you get to be sloppy, but it means that you feel able to try things as a team and as a person, and do things that you are a little bit unsure of, but if you fail or if things are hard, then you have your team backing you a bit. Again, signs of this are retrospectives where blame is not cast. If you have like a good incident process where you have blameless meeting around like, oh, how did this happen, and how can we mitigate that as a team, and not like pointing fingers for things going wrong. If you have a good A/B testing culture where you roll out experiments and features are not dictated by some CTO sneezing, but more about like the team getting to try out their ideas and seeing that most of them fail, but this is awesome. So by failure friendly, we mean companies that when failure happens are interested in that, like, okay, what an interesting mistake here. What can we learn from this? How can we grow from this? And not companies that are obsessed with success immediately, that understands that success is based on growth, and growth is based on doing a lot of mistakes. Number 5 is high impact companies. And what I mean by that are companies that do a meaningful contribution to the world, in the sense that they build something that is making life a little bit more wonderful. You don't be generous when applying this to your company. You don't have to be a company that cures cancer in puppies or anything like that. But it's important that your company is a company where developers don't get up in the morning just to get a salary and write interesting code and make interesting React patterns and interesting technology. It also needs to be a sense of purpose and connectedness in your work. So like finding that, hey, my job is meaningful. A side note about point number 5, if you are a non-profit that is doing very interesting work with a high impact, we are absolutely open to featuring you in a reverse interview for free. So don't feel like you have to be a well-funded company in order to get in touch with us on the reverse interview. So if this sounds like something that your company might be interested in, go to your hiring manager and tell them a little bit about Fun4Function and what Fun4Function is to you, and send them this video. If you are that hiring manager, you can go fill out the form at this link, or just find that link in the video description. If you have any comments or ideas or input on what you think that we should do with the reverse interview, please write them down below, like interview questions that we really should be asking. We really appreciate your input, because this is a very experimental project. We've never done anything like this before. Yeah. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. And until we see each other the next time, stay curious.